evening. Good evening. Welcome to the February 6th Plan and Zoning Commission meeting. Before we get started, we will go over the rules and procedures. The Plan and Zoning Commission is generally an advisory body to the City Council. The City Council will hold a public hearing and make final decisions on all matters before the Commission other than the site plans and subdivision plats, unless denials or conditional approvals thereof are appealed. Please contact the City Clerk or Development Services Department staff for details on council hearings. Applicants will be given 10 minutes to present their request. Proponents and then opponents from the public are allowed to speak in that order, with each speaker allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. The applicant is then allowed a 5-minute rebuttal if necessary. The hearing will then be closed and the Commission will discuss and vote on the issue. All comments are to be germane to the item under consideration and speakers are to maintain a courteous manner. Items listed on the consent portion of the agenda will not be individually discussed and will be considered for approval in accordance with the recommendation in the staff report, unless an individual present or a member of the Commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately under the public hearing agenda. With that, can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I'll move.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Same sign. Thank you. We've got a few items on the consent agenda tonight. Item number 1 is a request from Pamela Delaney for review and approval of preliminary plat Delaney Acres Plat 1 on 15.49 acres of property in the vicinity of 4789 Northeast 33rd Court in unincorporated Polk County, within the 2-mile distance for extraterritorial review of subdivision plats by the City of Des Moines to allow the property to be subdivided into 2 buildable lots and 2 outlots. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to pull this item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, is there anyone on the commission who would like to pull this item? Seeing none, item number 1 will remain on consent. Item number 2 is a request from Newberry Management Company regarding property located in the vicinity of 400 Southeast 8th Street for review and approval of the following expedited Type 2 design alternatives in accordance with City Code. A portion of the subject property is owned by the City of Des Moines. A, to allow surface parking where prohibited per City Code, and B, to allow residential uses on the ground story of a primary frontage facade where not permitted per City Code. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to pull this item from the consent agenda tonight? Seeing none, is there anyone on the commission? Seeing none, this item will remain on consent. Item number 3 is a request from 509 Southeast 6 LLC regarding property located in the vicinity of 509 Southeast 6th Street for review and approval of the following expedited Type 2 design alternatives in accordance with City Code. A portion of the subject property is owned by the City of Des Moines. A, to allow a primary frontage coverage of 32% along Southeast 6th Street, where a minimum required is 95% per City Code. And B, to allow a building setback of 90 feet from the east property line, where the required non-primary frontage build-to zone is 0 to 15 feet per City Code. C, to allow surface parking where prohibited per City Code. And D, to allow residential uses on the ground story of a primary frontage facade where not permitted per City Code. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to pull this item from consent tonight? Seeing none, is there anyone in the commission? Seeing none, this item will remain on consent. Item number 4 is a request from PPDSM LLC for the following regarding property located at 2005 Southwest 9th Street. A, determination as to whether the requested rezoning is in conformance with the Plan DSM. B, to rezone property from N5 Neighborhood District to N52 Neighborhood District to allow reuse of the existing structure for a 2-household residential dwelling. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to pull this item from consent tonight? Seeing none, is there anyone on the commission who would like to pull this item? Seeing none, this item will remain on consent. Item number 5 is a request from Grace Methodist Church for the following regarding property located at 1070 37th Street. A, determination as to whether the requested rezoning is in conformance with Plan DSM. And B, rezone the property from P2 Public Civic and Institutional District to N5 Neighborhood District to allow the property to be subdivided from the church property for use as a 1-household residence. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to pull this item from consent tonight? Seeing none, is there anyone from the commission who would like to pull this item? Seeing none, this item will remain on consent. Item number 6 is a request from Michael Renovations LC for review and approval of a public hearing site plan, 4814 Woodland Avenue Carport, for property located at 4814 Woodland Avenue, and for a Type 2 design alternative in accordance with City Code to allow an accessory building type not otherwise permitted per City Code. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to pull this item from consent tonight? Seeing none, is there anyone from the commission who would like to pull this item from consent? Seeing none, this item will remain on consent. So items 1 through 6 are on the consent agenda this evening. If I can get a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes.
Pardon me, I have to recuse myself on number 5, and so I'll vote in favor.
Abstention
Oh.
from number 5?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Any other abstentions? All right, thank you. That brings us over to our one public hearing item this evening, which is item number 7, a request from the Italian American Cultural Center of Iowa regarding property located at 2633 Floor Drive for the following. A, determination as to whether the requested PUD amendment is in conformance with Plan DSM. B, to amend the Plan DSM to revise the future land use classification for properties, for portions of the property from neighborhood mixed use and low density residential to neighborhood mixed use. And C, to review and approval of the Fifth Amendment to the Butler Mansion PUD conceptual plan to allow a cultural and event center use with building modifications, a new building, and other site improvements. Siriyoshi will present from staff tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sriyoshi Chakraborty, planning staff. I will be giving a short presentation on this item. This is a request to amend the Butler Mansion PUD to allow a cultural and event center use with building modifications, a new building, and other site improvements. The PUD amendment is also accompanied by an amendment to the Plan DSM comprehensive plan to revise the future land use classification for portions of the property from neighborhood mixed use and low density residential to neighborhood mixed use. The subject property is located along Fleur Drive, just to the south of Bell Avenue. The site is roughly 7 acres in size and includes the Butler Mansion, which was initially constructed as a single-family residence in 1934. The mansion has since been converted to commercial use with existing building additions to the west and north sides of the original mansion, and that contained the office space. The site currently includes about 149 off-street parking spaces. This is a photograph of the Butler Mansion, and I have a few other site photos. This is looking at Butler Mansion from the south. As you can see, the mansion sits up on top of a hill. There's a grade change from Floor Drive. It goes up and comes up to the hilltop where the mansion sits and then slopes down towards Cassidy Drive. This is the parking lot, which is to the east of the site. There is a shared drive that currently provides access to three different developments. You can see here the drive currently stops on the eastern side of the property. There's a gate that provides access through the shared drive into a townhome development to the south. This is the shared access off of Fleur Drive. As you can see, there's a curb cut to allow left turn into the property. There's a drive aisle right here where my cursor is that provides access into the parking area and loops around the building. The drive also goes further east, providing access to the Rollins Mansion and the townhome development to the south. The land slopes up and comes up to the top of the hill. This is where, if you can follow my cursor, this is where the mansion is at the top. And the driveway also comes up to the top where it bifurcates, providing access into the parking area and the drive for Butler Mansion. This drive right here provides access to the Rollins Mansion, and then you can see the drive going further east, providing access to the townhome development. This is the PUD conceptual plan. This is the existing PUD, and the proposed amendment is shown here on the concept plan. There is also elevations, which I can come back to later if you have any questions. I just want to walk through the proposed amendments within the PUD. The first amendment is to allow a new one-story standalone building with a green roof to the south of the existing Butler Mansion. This new building is expected to provide a bocce ball court both in the interior of the building as well as outside on the top of the green roof. This is an aerial view showing the rendering of what I just mentioned with the new proposed building. It's right here highlighted in red. And this is a photograph of the area where the new building will go in on the hillside. Currently, the parking lot stops here. This is roughly the area where the building is proposed to be sited. The next amendment proposed is a vestibule. The vestibule is expected to provide an entrance into the building from the parking lot to the east. This is what it looks like currently with the staircase going up. There is a connection here. So this is proposed to go look a little bit different with the vestibule and the improvements to the entrance from the parking lot to the east. The next addition is a two-story addition on the north side of the courtyard. So this is if you can follow my cursor again, this is the courtyard. This two-story addition will be just to the north of it. And here you can see the rendering on this aerial and what it might look like. And here is another conceptual depiction of what the addition north of the courtyard is expected to look. There is another one-story addition that is proposed to the northeast of the building. This is expected to provide inside storage as well as trash and other provisions that will be placed inside this particular building. And this is where it's going to be sited to the north west of the building. And currently, this is what it looks like. It's paved, and that's where that addition is expected to go in. And finally, there's also a proposal to remove the sky bridge, the existing sky bridge. This is what it looks like. And once this goes away, this is what the entrance would look like with the improvements as well as the new vestibule. There are also some minor site improvements that are proposed with this particular amendment. You might recall from the photographs that the parking lot currently ends right here. And so there is going to be a new drive aisle that will connect down to the shared driveway that's to the south of the building and the property. There will be some additional parking spaces that will be created. This will allow, right now, the way to access the parking lot to the east is to come in through the shared drive, go up north and loop around the building and come back to the parking lot to the east. This will provide an additional way in and out of the parking lot to the east of the building. Other improvements are also proposed, which include signage, wayfinding signage, as well as a new digital sign which would be placed at the entrance to the site from Fluor Drive. So with that, I wanted to talk about the proposed changes that are accompanying along with the building additions, the renovations to the existing building, as well as the other building additions and improvements allow the applicant to create spaces for additional uses. There's a variety of additional uses that are being proposed with these additions, and that includes things like office spaces, educational spaces, museum, kitchen space, cafe, lounge, and 2 separate event spaces. Additionally, as I mentioned before, the new building will provide an opportunity to have an enclosed bocce pavilion as well as an outdoor bocce courts. So those are the proposed changes or additions to the uses for this with this particular amendment. I did also want to point out that the Butler Mansion was designated a local landmark by the City Council on August 21st, 1989, and the Historic Preservation Commission, it was reviewed by the Historic Preservation Commission for the updates and was granted a COA subject to conditions. With that, staff is recommending approval of this proposed PUD amendment subject to 2 conditions. The first condition is that the parking lot shall be landscaped in conformance with Section 7 of the City Code and to the satisfaction of the Planning and Urban Design Administrator, and all exterior construction and modifications shall comply with Chapter 58, which relates to the Historic Preservation Ordinance. We did receive comment cards for this particular action. This is in support. We received a comment card in support from the Southwestern Hills Neighborhood Association. The following comment cards are in opposition. And please let me know if you would like me to come back to any of these. There's several, so I'll just scan through these. This is the consent map. The opposition comment cards that we received were from the residents of the townhome complex to the south, and we have identified those on the consent map as the dots. And I'm going to go through a few emails that I have received. There's quite a few, so I will be going through those quickly. Please let me know if you would like me to either stop or come back to any of these. But in summary, the neighbors within the townhome complex are concerned about traffic issues as well as the impacts due to additional activities and events that are proposed with this particular amendment. That concludes my presentation. I did want to mention that the applicant did a neighborhood meeting with the neighbors, and the summary is here. If you would like to look at it, or if you would like the applicant to provide a summary of their neighborhood meeting, we can certainly do that, but I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Suriyoshi. Any questions for staff?
I have two. Is there any location where an alternative drive entrance may have been either considered or possible onto the site to add another entrance? Or did I just miss it?
Yes, I can go up to the aerial here. Currently, an alternative option to provide a driveway would be off of Cassidy Drive. There's a significant grade difference, and there is existing stormwater detention in this area. Therefore, it would be challenging to consider an alternative drive option. And at this time, the existing driveway can sufficiently handle the traffic. Therefore, the need for an additional driveway is currently not there, in addition to the challenges of trying to find a location for it.
Awesome. You got ahead of my second question, which is, I'm always curious on these. Traffic always says we don't have to do any studies on any of these things, but Fleur is about the only road that's actually borderline hitting the actual MUD requirements for identifying a traffic study, number one. So was a traffic study necessary here? And number two, if we're saying it isn't, what level of surge traffic, which I think is what the comments seem to indicate, is necessary to be expected before something like we see at the Art Center goes in place? As you come down to Polk and hit Grand, there's sort of on-demand traffic management. Is something like that necessary, possible, or under what condition does traffic seem to believe we might actually need to look at something?
Based on the traffic that is to be generated, based on the use and the traffic volume, that did not warrant a traffic analysis or study. Therefore, any improvements are not, public improvements are not proposed at this time. However, yes, Fleur Drive is a busy road, and there could be congestion probably during the peak hours, from what I understand from traffic. During peak hours, there could be queuing. If it does end up becoming an issue, then at that point, traffic department will evaluate that and try to figure out what options there might be to address that.
What peak surge level did traffic believe was coming out of here? Like, how many cars per 15? What is the peak 15-minute interval that they believed was coming out of here, looking at the operations of this? Like, what number did they use to say that's not enough?
I don't have that information, but when traffic reviews these kind of requests, they're looking at the use, they're looking at, based on the use, how much traffic trips are going to be generated as a result of that. And they, based on their assessment, that did not warrant a traffic analysis. They felt that the existing infrastructure could handle the traffic volume that was to come in and out.
So they're just using standard IT models for this site for general daytime, or did they model this as an event center? How do they model this?
They modeled it based on the proposed uses, based on, there's event center activities proposed, there's going to be some commercial use, office use, and based on that, they're determining how much traffic volume would be generated.
What capacity are they talking about when they talking about doing this traffic study for our event center? What number of cars do they anticipate coming out and going in?
So my understanding is, and the applicant can clarify, my understanding is there's two separate event spaces in there, and each of them can hold up to 200 individuals. Additionally, there's a bocce ball court that's proposed, which could have activities, and that can hold up to 200 to 250 people as well.
So you're talking about combined, potentially could be 600 people on the site at one time? If both event centers and the bocce ball are in
I think we
service.
should let the applicant speak to their operations, because I think a lot of the questions and concerns are really more related to how they're going to operate.
Yeah, I also wanted to point out that there is existing off-street parking spaces. There's 149 parking spaces, and that will go up with the improvements. It'll go up to 155 parking spaces. So that's the maximum parking that they can have.
What would the on-street parking be?
There's no on-street parking.
Oh, it's all off.
Off-street.
Off-street, okay, thank you.
On-site, off-street.
I do aggressively agree with Francis's question, which I think is a better phrasing of mine, which is I'm more interested in what traffic is using to evaluate this, because there's plenty of times where they say, oh yeah, we don't need a study, and I get it. I do traffic studies in California regularly, so this isn't something I'm unaware of. It's something I'm just very curious, because we don't always get, this is what they say they're using as their peak trip numbers. And that's where I'm just, if we don't ever need a study, why do we have a traffic department? This seems sort of odd to me. Like, we just never have to look at it. That doesn't.
Yeah, the traffic study thresholds are set by, council, but we can supply that information later.
Shoshi, you referred to this as the shared driveway or shared entrance, but it appears to be solely on the property of the Butler Mansion. Do you know what the legal relationship is there?
They have an easement to use the driveway.
Both Druid Hill and the Rollins Mansion have easements.
Correct.
Thank you.
Sriyoshi, I have a question. It looks like there's another driveway to the south for the townhomes. Is that correct?
Yes, there is actually two other driveways to get in and out of the townhomes. You can't see it in the aerial here, but there's one that goes out onto Druid Hill Drive, and then there's another one, a second one that comes off of Fleur Drive, but it doesn't have a curb cut, so it's mostly a right-in, right-out from Fleur Drive. But there is another driveway off of Druid Hill.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? If not, I will invite the applicant to present. Please come up to the podium, state your name and address. You have up to 10 minutes.
Good evening. My name's Jeff Lamberti. I live at 120 Southwest 5th Street here in Des Moines. I am the chair of the Italian American Cultural Center of Iowa. I'm not going to take up much of your time, but I'm happy to answer questions or try to answer questions. But all I really want to say is we're very excited about this proposed project, making a significant investment in the city and preserving a pretty significant piece of history. When the Butler Mansion was first completed in 1934, one national magazine called it the most modern home in America. So pretty significant piece of history. We're excited about the project. I'll turn it over to my architects who can go through a lot more in detail, but I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Matt Cohen with RDG Planning and Design, 301 Grand Avenue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, for the opportunity to present today. As Jeff mentioned, this building, the Butler Mansion, has a storied history. It's considered one of the 100 most significant pieces of architecture in the state of Iowa. And it's a great honor to work with the Italian American Cultural Center of Iowa, who plan to bring new life and energy to the center while respecting its history as well. Saroshi did a great job of going through the project piece by piece, so I'll try not to repeat the details that she provided. But as noted, one of the big topics is related to the shared drive, and we've already covered the discussion about the nature of the easement and so forth there. Let's see, best way to scroll here, Shiroshi, there we go, okay. So the details, this is an overall floor plan of the facility. And I'll start with the history and heritage component of the project, which is in the northeast corner, and just kind of work our way counterclockwise around the project. So the yellow ribbon through the center there, that is the courtyard space that separates the original mansion from the various additions that were built over time. That history and heritage piece is a two-story museum that'll tell the history of immigrants coming to the United States and coming to Iowa and putting down roots here. The blue area, a portion of which is that pre-function space that we shared earlier, will be adjoining a two-level event space, and that is a major component of the business plan for the facility, is to host events. It would be unusual that both of those would be at capacity, each level of that event center, but if they were, we could be in the neighborhood of 500 total attendees. But really the idea is that one space could be set up for, say, a lecture, the other space by day, and the other space could be set up for a wedding at night and that sort of thing. Moving around to the green area, that's a little bit more food and drink intensive area of the project, as well as a culinary kitchen that will also provide opportunity for education and cooking classes. And then you see the red box with the dashed line. That is a one-story addition that is intended to serve the commercial kitchen for food storage and other services. The literature and language area provides education opportunities for Italian language learning and so forth. And then as we get into that more red area of the plan, that is the footprint of the historic mansion, and that is a restoration project. We will bring that portion of the building back to its 1936 life. So we looked at these axons before. The sensitivity that was paid towards the original Butler Mansion over the decades of additions to the building is really remarkable, allowing the Butler to always kind of stand above the rest. So anything we're planning on doing will follow that lead as well. So a few scenes that you have not seen yet. This is on the left, the access drive that's been noted thus far, part of that easement. shared with the adjacent property owners. And then the new drive is about a 120-foot long section that is proposed to connect, if you're following the cursor here, with about 10 new parking spots is what's proposed in that location. And you can see this is the bocce pavilion, which is recessed into the hillside, in this case, allowing the Butler Mansion to remain the predominant feature on the site. And another scene as we move around the building here. And finally, an overview, bird's eye view from the southeast in this case. In addition to the 100-foot connection off of the access easement drive, we do have a connection through here as well, which is a site improvement, all leading to the new entry on the east side of the building. We looked at these earlier, and I'll just go through these quickly. The new entry. This is the courtyard space, the food and beverage area as well. And this is the addition, which is that pre-function space serving both the museum, which would be to the right, and the banquet spaces. And interior of that. This is the museum space as planned, northeast corner. Cafe, food and beverage spaces, cooking classroom. And this is an image, I know you all haven't been in the building, but the room to the left is the original living room. That's currently split into 3 offices. It'll be restored to its original intent. And one of the really cool character-defining features of the building is the continuous ramp that runs through the building, which will be maintained. And the learning space on the lowest level. You've seen the plans that we've talked about here, so I won't go into detail there unless you have questions. This is the fire apparatus plan. Both work from a fire apparatus standpoint with the dead end, but there is certainly some benefits to having the ability to move all the way around the building. This is the 1997 plan for that access drive with a little additional detail. It does note a future extension of that road in the 1997 plan as well. And we will address the items in many of the comments related to there's a crest on that hill, a little bit of a blind spot, so providing appropriate traffic markings and striping, as well as some caution signs along the way. Those will be integrated into the final site plan. And then these just kind of give you a sense for what that experience is as you crest that hill. This is the relationship. This is the new drive connection back. So it does align with the existing roadway. This is a gated entry into the Druid Hill Neighborhood Association, which of course we assume will remain gated. So any of the users here will drive to the south and take a right. And then back up the hill towards Fleur. We are well on our way on the project. Looking at a summer start for the project. Lots of momentum and excitement, enthusiasm around the project and the future for this site in the Italian American Cultural Center of Iowa. So thank you very much. I know we have many folks here to visit about the project tonight. So.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
If an additional exit was sort of wanted, is there any ability, given the topography, to try and work a deal with the NX region, NX partner or neighbor that's next to you?
To the north,
southeast?
To the southeast. I don't know about the southeast with that particular neighbor. Let me.
I'm just curious if there's any other path. I mean, if there's just nothing that can be done and there's only one entry and exit, fine. I'm just curious if there's anything creative. So right down there is apartment complex to the right. Given where you're connecting, is there any ability, due to the topography, to be able to even strike up a proposal with them, or is there really just no other way?
You want to take that one, or you want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay. The possibility is there. I think what the center's thoughts are is this is a Fluor address for the facility. So any additional connections, whether it be north or east, would be in addition to what's being proposed with this PUD amendment. So which could be a relief valve, could reduce the total number of cars, but those conversations have not been had, but we'll take those suggestions.
Yeah, and I might just add, I think as a practical matter, given that the presence on Fluor, why it might help some relief as people are leaving a wedding or leaving, I don't think it's going to do much on the entrance side. They're coming to a Fluor address.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just
No.
saying that, like, I mean, it seems like there is reasonable pushback on traffic. I think the numbers would be very helpful for us to know, because it seems like it's probably not really an issue, but having any other option or pursuing any other option that can show there's been an effort to overturn all stones seems like it'd be reasonable.
The number, to put it simply, is there's going to be 155 to 57 cars when this facility is in full use. So that's the kind of numbers we're talking about. And with any event, the likelihood of a surge of all those 155 cars moving at once is unlikely. That would be stretched out over time. Say a wedding, you have the folks that stick around and those that leave early. So we wouldn't anticipate a major surge of those 155 cars.
And it is important to point out right now, and back up, we're willing to consider and work with anybody. We want to be good neighbors, and that's our intent. Currently, Rollins does not have sufficient parking for their events. I believe they advertise 300 as their capacity. They rent our parking currently. So a wedding at our is going to be very similar to a current wedding at Rollins.
Any other questions?
Well, doesn't that double the capacity then of Rollins and Butler having events on the same evening?
It's not possible to have we could not have a 300-person wedding in our facility. They could have one, but they couldn't use our parking lot.
I think that's Francis's point. So if we are expanding up to 600, 500 capacity potential, and they have 300 down there, we're talking about 800 through one driveway, right? I think that's the nature of the concern. That I think is a rightful concern. That we're figuring out what's every stone to make sure that we have that accounted for.
Yeah, and I do think it's important from a planning standpoint that there is a difference between number of cars and number of attendees, and I think that's been lost in the process as well. So when we're talking about number of cars, there's a finite number that could be accommodated here, which are in accordance with the assembly occupancy requirements of the site.
I have a question, please.
Go ahead.
I have a question about the building. I understand that the building went before the Historic Preservation Commission back in January for a certificate of appropriateness, and that the commission made a few recommendations for the design.
Mm-hmm.
Are the images that we're seeing now reflective of those recommendations?
Yes, they are. These have been updated since that presentation. So what you're seeing here was the slide that was presented to the Historic Preservation Commission. There was discussion about the skylights on the top of the building, how far extended it above grade. So we've further reduced the height of the building in these revised versions. So you can see we're right at grade at that parking lot, not elevated at all. And then we've eliminated the skylights in this case and added windows, which was another comment of the Historic Preservation Commission as well. So yes, we have addressed those items.
As far as the staff conditions, are you in agreement with those?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we will welcome anyone who is in favor of this project to come up to the podium. Seeing none, is there anyone neutral? Please come up to the podium, state your name and address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Hello, Commission. My name is Carol Maher. I live in downtown Des Moines, and I rode over to this facility today, and man, it was hard to understand where to go. So I'm excited that they're adding that cut-through drive, because even with the existing wayfinding, it was hard to know where I was supposed to go. I think the improvements in the restoration look really fantastic, and I'm excited for them. I'm hoping that they will add bike racks. That's my normal comment for any site plans I see that don't have bike racks on them. And ADA parking, I'm presuming, will be added because it doesn't exist today. I'm assuming then that the entrance will be sort of through that opened up courtyard that has a nice sign on it, that has a little bit more flourish to it than what the entrance to the mansion does today, so that is pleasing. Wondering if you might consider speed humps on your hill to slow people down. And I think it's unfortunate, though, frankly, that you're putting a electronic sign on that really lovely Art Deco sign that's on Fleur Drive. I think that will take away and cheapen the look of the sign and the mansion, and I hope that you reconsider that. I see that that was not in front of the Historic Preservation Committee. Maybe they don't need to look at that, but I just think it doesn't do the, lend to the historic nature of this Art Deco design. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak who's neutral? Seeing none. Anyone who's opposed to this project? Come up to the podium, state your name and address. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Kelly Croft. My wife and I live at 2850 Druid Hill Drive. Druid Hill is a long-established community. It's a close-knit community of 32 homes that is next to the southeast part of the cultural center. We first learned of these very ambitious plans for the cultural center during the neighbors meeting held on a snowy night just 2 weeks ago. And to be honest, we've been trying to get up to speed ever since. My neighbors and I like the goals of the center, and we hope that it'll be a success. We especially like their plans for restoring the mansion and all the exciting new architecture. However, we have significant issues with other aspects of their plan and don't believe that the zoning change should be approved until our concerns can be resolved. So what are our concerns? Traffic flow, public safety, light and noise infiltration, and generally a lot more cars and activity than we've ever experienced directly adjacent to our property. And apparently that new activity would be on weekdays, on weekends, and during both daytime and nighttime hours. I say apparently because nothing has been shared with us on the projected volume and visit pattern of people who will be coming to the center. We hear things about the headcount capacity of venue rooms, but that's a different issue. For something of this scale, the project team must have made assumptions on the visitor volume in order to inform all their planning and budget decisions. Without more transparency, we're left to speculate about things that we should know before there's a zoning change. We think that if the cultural center folks would take the time to engage us in serious discussion, then mutually acceptable solutions to our concerns could be reached. As example, it's our understanding that the Cultural Center aims to create a new traffic flow for their visitors, as you've seen. They would use an existing shared access road as a new way for cars to reach their parking lots. That access road is currently shared, as mentioned, by the center, the Rollins Mansion, and the homes in Druid Hill, but historically, only the first segment of the road nearest to Fleur Drive has been used by the Center Butler Mansion complex. But now they propose to use the entire length of the access road to handle some amount of future traffic. So far as we know, that includes large event traffic, as well as daily traffic for their cafe, for their museum, their classes, their genealogy center, their hotel guests, their bocce courts, and whatever other zone-allowed uses they may pursue someday. If they proceed with their plan, then much of that traffic will go right past the side entry of our property and negatively impact on the quality of life for members of our community, particularly those who live near our side entrance. I'd also like to note that while we haven't had time to formally consult with an attorney yet, Druid Hill's 1988 easement contract might not even allow such a significant change in use of the shared access road. Is there a workable solution? We believe there might be multiple solutions, and some have been mentioned here. But the most obvious would be for the Cultural Center to commit to exclusively using the current and historical traffic flow for their property. This tried and true traffic flow bypasses most of the shared access road and causes minimal light and noise intrusion into our neighborhood. It's the traffic flow that has worked well for all the previous owners of the property, and we know of no compelling reasons to change it. I believe that a few of my neighbors will say more things about things like traffic, safety, and the outside bocce courts, but I'd like to close by reiterating that the Druid Hill community would be pleased, and I mean pleased, to help the Cultural Center folks find mutually agreeable solutions to our issues. However, right now, we don't think their plan is sufficient to earn a positive rezoning vote. Thanks.
Thank you.
Question, please. I have a question, please, when you're
Yes.
finished. According to the staff report, the applicant is required to hold a neighborhood outreach meeting prior to the public hearing and can provide a summary of such at the hearing. Was this, you say 2 weeks ago, was this the neighborhood association meeting with the
Yes.
developer?
It was, and there wasn't a lot of attendance, to be honest, and that's because it was snowing. It was a cold night, and also I don't think people were really aware that this was even going on. I attended, it was good. Look, we're neophytes on the zoning process, okay? We didn't know that this was our opportunity to ask probing questions. There was no advance warning except the same graphic that you're looking at up on your screen right now. We had not seen the presentation. It was a cordial meeting. You know, my wife and I went primarily because we thought we could see the Butler Mansion, and we did. Thank you very much for giving us a tour. But this was not a give and take informed discussion, right? But it did occur, and we're appreciative of that, but we need to have a lot more back and forth, especially now that we understand more about what the plan is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone who is in opposition to this project who would like to speak? Please come up to the podium, state your name and address. You have up to 5 minutes.
That's my limit. Yep.
Are you showing something?
Yes, can I share?
Yep.
a picture?
We'll turn it on.
We'll switch it over for you. I turn this on?
We will turn it on. Yeah, you can put it on.
Okay.
It'll take a minute to warm up.
Oh, okay. Thanks very much. So I'm going to talk about traffic. And I think there are more specifics about traffic that we can share that...
Sir, can you state your name and address before you start?
Oh, sorry, yes. I'm Paul Morris. I live at 2822 Druid Hill. We've been there for 11 years.
Thank you.
Is it just warming up? Okay. In terms of the traffic, in terms of the volume of people coming to the site, the number that's being kicked around is 500 to 600, and that's a number which comes from the Cultural Center. It was also reported in the press last year. Americans don't like to share cars. If you have 135 parking spaces and 500 people, that's not going to work out. So there are going to be just more cars than 135, that will fit into 135 places. And the issue of off-site parking and shuttle buses and so forth has not been addressed, and I think that's a very important issue. Second issue is the topography of the site. This is Google Maps, which is pretty primitive, but there it is. The Butler itself is on the top of a hill, and there is the road that comes off Fleur and comes towards the townhouses and will then go into the new parking lot. They slope up and slope down, and there is a blind spot at the hill, at the top of the hill, which is not going to be addressed by signage. It's on a curve, and as you come up, you don't see a car coming in the other direction until you're up there already. So I think that's a significant problem. I don't know how you're going to address that in any way, but that's certainly a problem. It's kind of dangerous. The slope up from Fleur up to that blind spot, and then the slope down from the blind spot to the townhomes is a slope, and it gets snowy and icy. It's not a city street, so the city does not take care of it. And you slide. Right now, it's taken care of by Butler, by Rollins, I think. And once you start to slide, it's dangerous. People have slid down that slope. As you get to the bottom of that slope, going towards the townhomes, right now the road just ends in a dead end, and that's going to be, that's where you end up. And but people have done that. There has been a snowbank there, so you go into the snowbank, but that's not really a very attractive safety mechanism. People who are not familiar with this, and we're talking about large numbers of visitors who are not familiar with this, will be surprised by the slope and will have a hard time going slowly enough not to get out of control. At the bottom of that slope, there's a 90-degree turn into the townhomes, and there will be a proposed 90-degree turn into the access road, and you'd be able to do a hard right or a hard left without slipping. Coming down the other slide towards Fleur, that's slippy too, and I've slipped out into Fleur because the slope goes right down to the road. For people who are not aware of that, who are just coming back from a wedding or whatever, that's going to be a problem, and that I think is a high-risk area. As you come down Fleur, southbound to get into the site, you have to turn across 2 lanes of northbound traffic, and if you have a large number of cars piling up there, waiting to make that turn, the present inset, the place you pull over before making the turn, is not going to handle the sort of volume of traffic we're talking about. When you come out, and if you want to turn south down Fleur, you have to go across 2 lanes of northbound traffic, and then get into the right-hand lane of 2 lanes of southbound traffic. That's going to be a risk. And this site has not seen these numbers before. Previous occupancy was 150 people working at Butler. I guess it was at Integer. They were familiar with the area. They went there every day. People driving to the cultural center are not going to be aware of that. So I think that there needs to be something done about that. There was mention of a traffic study. Well, if ever there's a time for a traffic study...
Sir, you're over 5 minutes if you want to wrap up your thoughts.
Okay, so I think it's essential we have a traffic study to make sure that the turnings onto Fleur from the site are safe.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? Please state your name and address. You have up to 5 minutes, and you can sign in on the white sheet afterwards.
Hi, wish I brought my binoculars instead of my glasses tonight. It's kind of hard to see some of the stuff that's up on the screen. Hi, my name is Alicia Claypool, and my husband Dave and I have lived in our townhouse at Druid Hill for almost 7 years. That number is 2840. We like many of the elements of the Italian-American Cultural Center's proposed project, but at this point, we cannot support the request for rezoning as it's currently configured, and not after hearing the comments, the additional comments tonight from the parties involved. We are amenable to helping to resolve our concerns by meeting with whomever is necessary, the Cultural Center, RDG, city staff, to help resolve our concerns. And we think there are solutions to these concerns. I'm going to focus on the significant increased traffic, cars, and car lights on the unnamed shared access road, because that road comes right down to my house. And you have to understand that my house faces the west. We have windows, tall windows, on the west and the north side, all along the north side of our house. We can, every car that comes down that road, the lights shine into our driveway. So for now, when our neighbors come down at night to go back to their homes, there may be 2 or 3 cars a night. That's not a problem. But if there's 150 cars, as Matt mentioned, 150 cars would bring 300 people in for events, for weddings, parties, other events during the week. 150 car lights coming down pretty much within a short period of time, because events have a start time. People come within a concise period of time. So we're going to see that parade of lights coming into our living room, whether we're looking west and they'll go into the other parking lot and come out. We can see them all along the north side. We think this will significantly impact and make life unacceptable with all of these car lights coming into our house. It'll have a significant impact on the quality of our life and probably on the financial value of our home. So as I said, this is the first home that comes in. This is the first home that you see when you first come in. Okay. So I've accounted for about 300 guests that might come in for events. But what about the other 100 to 200 guests who are arriving for large events while there's no additional parking? Will the guests be dropped off by a driver driving to drop off his guests and then going to off-site parking? Will a shuttle bus deliver guests and return them off-site to their cars after the event? Will large tourist buses that transport about 60 people, will they deliver guests down this unsafe road? And will there be enough space for the bus to make that sharp left turn onto the IAC property? Regardless of the type of vehicle, there could be at least 150 sets of vehicle lights shining into our house each weekend, and probably every weeknight, for meetings and other events. This volume of cars, and I failed to mention, our house is 50 steps from where that driveway will begin. And I want to reiterate, we can see every car coming down the driveway. We welcome you to come to our house, sit in our living room at night, and we'll get 20 cars coming down, and you can see how annoying that is. We also are concerned about the noise and the lights from the bocce ball court and the east parking lights that from the parking lot that would be adjacent to us. Not only is our quality of life and the enjoyment of our home would be destroyed, but this southeast road in particular would significantly impact the value of Druid Hill homes. As long as I still have some time, I wanted to respond to some of the other comments that have been offered. The parking lights in the east parking lot would be of concern. Regarding the blind spot on the road, you have to realize that this is a short road going up the hill and going down the hill. So when you go up the hill, you make a curve to the right at the same time as the blind spot. So I don't know that signs are how you can address that very adequately. And you have to realize this is a steep hill going up and down. It's just a very short distance in which there's a lot of room for error. And then after people are partying, coming back up the hill, they might not be as cautious as they might be coming into it. Also wanted to comment that one of the reasons why there may not have been very many people with us at the first information meeting, because the map that we received from the city didn't show the new access, the new road into the property. So for us, it looked like, well, there was nothing, no big deal going on that might impact us. So I think that we were somewhat unaware of the scope of this project when we first saw that information.
You have reached your 5 minutes if you want to wrap up your thoughts.
Okay, just wanted to reiterate that we're happy to meet with the city staff, RDG, and the Cultural Center to resolve these concerns, because we do think that there are solutions, and our speaker who will conclude will go into those conclusions.
Thank you. Please come up to the podium, state your name and address. You have up to 5 minutes, and please sign in afterwards.
I'm sorry, I'm turn off. I'm sorry. My bad.
Well, my name is Bob Sobiak. My wife and I live at 2826 Druid Hill Drive. We've lived there for over 15 years. Can I put a document, can you turn that on for me? Or should I say? Because I may have a wonderful example of collaboration here. So I was asked to speak to sort of the noise, the light from outside activities that might spill over to our neighborhood. I have to tell you, first of all, that our neighborhood, we're used to sounds of life. I mean, we hear the planes going over, we hear waterworks concerts, we hear stuff at Gray's Lakes, we have good neighbors at the Rollins House. In fact, we can even hear the announcer at the Lincoln High School Stadium if the wind is blowing right. So we're not opposed to being in the midst of activity and energy. We were concerned about the bocce ball courts as presented initially, that there were going to be 8 courts, that we're hoping, the center was hoping to create an opportunity for both regional and perhaps even national tournaments, and that they were going to be, the image that we had from our neighborhood meeting looked like this. And on the edges, the access road, you can see the Butler Mansion, and you can see them, stepped down that grade. Now, what we saw this evening was different. In one of the slides, and I think you addressed the skylight issue and stuff in the windows, that was actually one of our suggestions for an alternative, because we were concerned with tournaments and play, the noise level there would overflow into our area and, again, affect the quality of living where we do. But if, in fact, the intent is to have a closed space with a roof and then windows along the side, that's one way to alleviate that. So we really appreciate that. We also talked about, Musco Lighting being involved in targeted lighting, which is what they're known for, as well as wide lighting. So all of that sensitivity to the impact on the neighborhood is well appreciated and does really make us feel like we can have a neighborly conversation about some of the things that need to happen. I was going to talk more about the bocce ball. I don't think I have to talk about props relocating, because where they are right now is as close as they could be to our neighborhood, because they're right up against the access road. There may be other places. Again, I think having them covered and having the building built alleviates some of our concern about that. But we do want to make sure that there is an awareness of outdoor activities and where they're located. We hope that they would be located away from the access road, perhaps in the courtyard primarily. We hope that there would be reasonableness in terms of how late activities can be held outside, about noise volume. Those kinds of things are things that even building a wall or planting trees is not going to help with that. So we just need people to have that awareness. And we've had a great experience with the Rollins Mansion as being a good neighbor, letting us know when something unusual is going on, making sure that they manage the outdoor activities. So that's all I need to say. I'm not clear if it's outdoor or indoor at this point in your plans. This is what we were given. I was suggesting it be covered. It looks like it looked that way on your plan.
So it's hard to hear you without you speaking towards the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I was just asking him if they had made a decision about the bocce courts in fact being covered.
covered? Should we have him speak to that during the rebuttal?
Yes, there will be time for
Right.
rebuttal from the applicant to answer some of the questions that are
All right.
brought up during
Well, then I will
comments.
thank you for your attention to this. I fully support a traffic study based on all the things that you talked about. The other thing that I would like to say is that we really are pleased that the Butler Mansion, that complex, will be repurposed and not torn down and replaced. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Please sign in on the white sheet. Thanks. Please come up to the podium. You have up to 5 minutes. State your name and address. And don't forget to sign in afterwards.
Good evening. My name is Helen Miller, and I live at 2814 Druid Hill Drive, where I have resided very happily for the last 6 years. I just wanted to address a few things. First and foremost, I want you to know that the Druid Hill townhomes do support the concept of a cultural center in celebration of Italian American heritage and culture, except that we don't support the current configuration, and that's for 3 reasons. First, we have significant concerns about the newly proposed road at the southeast corner of the property. Second, we have concerns about noise and light pollution from the Bocce, am I pronouncing that right? Courts. Bocce, thank you. Bocce Bowl courts. And lights from the east side parking lots. And number 3, because changing the usage of the building from an office space to a public building should require a second interest for safety reasons. Things like fire, police, ambulance, traffic safety. Turning from Fleur, even if traffic does not go past the blind spot and curve on the hilly shared access road, would still be a nightmare due to the projected increase in guests and the volume of vehicles. We are mindful that things can be solved, and so I'd like to offer a few solutions. First of all, we'd urge the use of the roadway on the west side of the Italian, can I just say IAC, is that all right? Sorry. Building to more safely route traffic around to the north and east parking lots. We don't quite understand the reason for a southeast road where there are wide, safer roads on the property that already exist. Landscaping. Strategically placing landscaping would provide solid screens of trees, bushes, and plantings in various heights along the south and southeast perimeter of the property, and would provide significant mitigation of light pollution and would help to mitigate noise from the courts, as well as other outdoor activities. The landscaping, if done properly, would also provide environmental benefits and financial value to the property. Other solutions would be to routing traffic onto the center's grounds. For example, extending the open Bible driveway from Bell Avenue South and then extend it to meet up with the center's property on the north side or the east side of the grounds. Extending Cassidy Drive at its westernmost point up to the center's property would also work. And we do highly recommend a traffic study. Finally, I'd like to say that we'd recommend delaying a decision on the rezoning request until all the parties, IAC, RDG, P&Z, and staff, as well as those of us at Druid Hill, can get all of our representatives together to sit down to resolve concerns and suggest solutions. We're eager to work together to find a mutually satisfactory resolution so that Druid Hill can support the center's rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to this project? Anyone else? There won't be another chance. Seeing none, I would like to invite the applicant to never mind. We have somebody else who would like to speak in opposition. Please state your name and address. You have up to 5 minutes, and you can sign in afterwards.
My name is Joel Wooler. I'm been referenced several times tonight, so I thought I should probably come up here to introduce myself and answer questions. I am the owner of Rounds Mansion at 2801 Fleur Drive. I don't necessarily have much opposition per se, but I did hear myself referenced, and I just wanted to make you guys aware I am here. I can answer questions about event activity, et cetera, should anybody desire that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? If not, I will invite the applicant for the rebuttal.
Thank you. I don't obviously know, I don't get into a lot of the specifics about the details and the requirements in terms of things, but a couple things I would comment is on that drive, that shared drive on that existing easement, which, as was pointed out earlier, is on our property. It was anticipated at the time they entered into that easement that there would be an extension very similar to what we're talking about to join this in a circular fashion. I've driven this many times. There is a hill. There may be a blind spot. As it sits today, I think it's adequate for our use as intended. I think it meets all the requirements, but that's not how we're looking at this. We want to be a good neighbor. So at our meeting, we had already offered up that we'd be willing to stripe this, to put signage on to make sure that we can improve it. We're willing to consider other potential improvements to make that safer, because we do want to be a good neighbor. On the noise and light issues, the bocce was, I thought the bocce might be, we quite frankly don't know which version of the bocce court as we sit here today, but what I can say is I think probably noise and light are a bit premature given where we're at. We're obviously going to comply with all city requirements, zoning, ordinances with respect to noise, and obviously lighting I know will come into account. We don't want to be or have any intent to be any kind of a nuisance. We're willing to sit down. We told them at the neighborhood meeting we're willing to work with them, and if there's ways to improve the safety of that, we want to be a good neighbor. But technically I'd leave it more to Matt.
I have one thing while you're saying that. Do you intend that most people who are attending events at your center would enter and then turn left right away? And not, would they be mostly leaving from that other road, or are they also entering from that new road?
They would have the option.
They would have the option.
To go either along the south or turn and go north immediately.
Yeah, I just thought with some mitigation of concerns that they said it might help if you had a sign that was directing them to try to turn left, and then they can leave out the other way. But there might be good to be a sign there if you're coming to the center, turn left.
Okay. Thank you very much. I do want to thank the city staff again. Looking at this, PUDs are not common as they once were. So certainly the process is unique, and I just want to thank the city staff for once again being very thorough in the review. And just a reminder to everyone, this is a PUD amendment. There will be a site plan review and a lot more detail forthcoming in the processes as well. So we intend to meet all of the requirements for bike racks and accessible parking stalls through the site plan review process as well. I did want to address Bob's question about the pavilion. What is proposed is what's in the presentation tonight, which is a building for that pavilion. Since the original design, which he shared here, we went and toured bocce pavilions that host national tournaments. They really need to be interior. So to do that many courts, it will be an interior type of situation. We will say that is pending funding. So it will either be a couple of recreation courts, kind of like you saw up at the top level, or hopefully they are able to complete the building as proposed. But it won't take the nature of the image that was shared here. That was an early fundraising diagram only, so just to clarify that. And very importantly, in St. Louis, it is in fact called Bochi. But we found that to only be true in St. Louis. So.
Yes.
We've heard a number of comments from neighbors, both in favor and also opposed to the project. At least I got the impression that the information that was available has been rather sketchy, and I've heard that from a number of people here tonight. My question is, would you be willing for a continuance of this discussion so that you would have more time to talk with the neighbors, to ask, to negotiate? The neighbors might learn more about what you're proposing. So that's my question.
Well, first of all, I would take a little bit of offense at the comment that it was sketchy. Essentially, most of what you saw here tonight was shared at the neighborhood meeting. So we did provide the information. We were available to, somebody said there wasn't much interaction. There was significant interaction. We would prefer not to postpone because we're on a pretty tight time frame as these projects go. With that said, we're willing to talk to them and continue to work on these. But we shared the information. It was available at that meeting.
Thank you. As a reminder, we're looking at the rezoning. As it was mentioned, a site plan will come forth if this goes and gets approved by the city council. We're just recommending tonight. With that, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and let the commission deliberate.
I do need to mention that Chaz has recommended that I mention that I was contacted personally by about 8 residents of the Druid Hill townhomes about that. I just wanted to disclose that.
Thank you.
And I was contacted by one of the residents, too.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I was not popular enough to be contacted. However, I do, I guess, personally really like this project. I do personally think that given the topography, it does seem it's difficult to find another exit out. It would be great if there was some other type of partnership to get something else, just from a safety perspective, to get people off a site. If it is getting high density, and we do have 2 great facilities that could be here, this would be a real jewel for the city, which would be awesome. My issue sort of in some ways with the city a little bit is that, I think on the traffic and transportation piece, a scenario that seems to me that should be something worth at least giving consideration to is a left turn out of the site during rush hour traffic. There are plenty of time-based restrictions that can go into sites with things that may have surge densities, like you may have surge transportation like you do here. Fleur is one of our only busy roads that actually does get to the edge of a transportation study being necessary. So the fact that we've just heard that there isn't one necessary at all seems a little odd to me, especially a left turn out of the facility during specific times of day. Seems like I hope that the city takes on board the idea that maybe we should actually look at a scenario once in a while. I'm not giving a sense that the other traffic issues are a concern. I think having a circulation where fire trucks have access all around as presented seems very safe and good. All that other seems to make a ton of sense. But I do wish we would be a little more thoughtful of potential dangerous scenarios like that left turn out issue.
And what I'll add is certainly anticipating those types of questions because they come up every time. We know it's going to happen. It's good to think about it because these kinds of, I have a problem with continuances or putting things off because these delays are expensive, and I feel like we have a commitment, even a ethical obligation to help these projects move forward quickly. And the last thing I want to say is I appreciated the reminder that this is just about the rezoning and there will be site plans that will be considered later. In terms of the neighborhood, we hear these projects all the time, and so we're familiar with the process, and I understand that folks are still learning. They're understanding how this is going to impact them, and I really appreciate that the neighborhood is so is overall supportive of this project and really committed to being part of the conversation. And so I hope that the folks who are moving this project forward, assuming it'll go forward, that they take advantage of that, because the result will just be, right, a better final product.
I would, I'll add to that. It's a great project. It's great for Des Moines. It's great for Iowa, honestly. I think many of the concerns we heard from the neighborhood can be addressed by the site plan, and Matt and his team are more than competent, and I'm sure the board of directors will make sure that happens. So with that, I will move staff.
Okay, we have a motion. Unless there are additional comments? All those in favor of moving staff recommendation, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Same sign. Motion passes. And we have one more item tonight, which is the election of officers.
Excuse me, Chair. I just want to notate that there were 2 abstains from that vote count, just a heads up, just so it was on the record.
I apologize, yes. I forgot about the abstentions. Do I need to?
No, okay, I think that's good enough
Thank
for the
you.
record. Thank you.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, they were the
All right,
audience.
so we do have the election of officers tonight, and I will let Jason take over.
Yeah, there was a subcommittee appointed at the last meeting to come out with a slate, a nomination slate, per the commission bylaws. That committee submitted the letter that you see before you with the slate for chair, vice chair, and second chair. A commissioner can move this slate, a commissioner can make adjustments, but we just need a motion.
Motion by Francis to adopt the slate of officers. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes. Thank you.
And thank you, Johnny.
Thank you, Johnny.
Any other items for tonight?
No, thank you.
All right. With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.